Yo, what's up? It's the Tech Gorilla. I'm gonna go real on tech. With the Galaxy TriFold coming out on Friday, I figured I'd take a look at the why. My last video I talked about how the TriFold was basically for no one and I could never recommend it. But I'm still gonna buy it, and I wanted to talk a little bit about why I'm going to buy it. My rationale is very simple. This. All of these serve a very discrete purpose. And the goal is to try to get down to a very minimalist footprint. So the digital nomad, or the one device for all needs. The truth is it'll never be a device that replaces all of these devices, because all of these devices do serve their own discrete purposes. This I use for writing on. This is a great art tablet. This is the Samsung Galaxy Tab S10 Ultra, but it is restricted by Android. While I think that this, along with the iPads, are incredible for digital art, it is definitely not a Windows replacement. And so I've got the Samsung Galaxy Book 5 360. I love that all of my devices are touchscreen. It's fantastic technology that Apple just does not have in any of their laptops. Non-touchscreen. But what they do have is their operating system and their ecosystem. They vendor lock the heck out of you, and there's no way to get out of their ecosystem. This is a laptop that I have never been able to find a replacement for. This came out many, many moons ago, and it is the Samsung Galaxy Chromebook, the first edition. This, much like the Book 5, is a 360 2-in-1, but it is a Chromebook, and it gets some of the latest security updates, and I never have to worry about whether this is a lockdown platform. But more importantly, ultra thin, ultra portable. Nothing has ever quite come close to replacing this for me. There's never been a laptop since this one was released that's been able to hit this form factor, this size, these specs. Downside is obviously the battery performance is not great, but with this I do the majority of my web development and a lot of my developer tasks. So I find myself using this more often than not, even for media consumption, though it is a 13.3-inch screen, so it's a little bit on the smaller side. I find it is my favorite device, and it's one of the reasons I still have it and haven't traded it in for anything else. These devices, these are e-paper displays. These are basically advanced Kindles. Here I've got the V-Woods AI paper and then their smaller version here. This was just a little bit too large to take on trips, airline travel, and things like that. While it's great to be able to have a bigger, higher resolution display to be able to see everything, I did like the smaller form factor when I was just on the go. When I travel, this is usually my go-to leisure device for reading, for keeping up on whatever. But they are incredibly slow in their response times. So generally I'm using these for media consumption, I'm using this for reading, and they're great for that. All of these devices have very discrete use cases. I can't take all of them with me when I travel. So if I'm away for any business travel, or more than likely, what I do very often is when I'm traveling on a motorcycle across the city or across the country, I like to travel as light as possible. Because of that, I've been heavily invested in the Samsung Galaxy Fold lineup. And while this isn't the perfect solution to all of the problems that I had, it was a step in what I felt was the right direction. And we're finally starting to get to where the next evolution, the Samsung Galaxy TriFold, not much thicker by any measure than the Fold 7, a little bit more in line in truth with the Fold 6, I do think that we're getting there. So my goal is essentially to replace all of those devices with this single device. Now, how am I going to do that? It's essentially by turning this into a zero client. Imagine essentially just remote desktop. I'm going to try to access the remote desktop from here. I do need a keyboard to pair with this, and ideally one that can fold so it's still portable enough. And I'm going to need a mouse. So essentially this would be my mobile setup. If I was to take this on the road, I would essentially fold this keyboard up. This can actually fit in my pocket. Granted, I may be bigger than some of you, but this is a pretty efficient and portable setup. I do recommend that if you really want to go ultra thin and ultra portable, you get something that's a little bit thinner. So essentially what I'd be looking at is this as my on-the-go setup. This would take care of the majority of my use cases. Certainly while I'm traveling, the things that I would want to do, this could cover the majority of that. And the form factor of the TriFold actually makes this a lot better than something like the Fold 7. What I have here is a Linux workstation that is running out of my home lab. So again, this isn't a setup that everybody is going to benefit from because not everybody's going to have this infrastructure. But if you're familiar with remote desktop at all, You can accomplish this using a bunch of different other methods. This is just one of them that I use because it integrates into my home lab infrastructure. Now don't get me wrong, this is no 16-inch display, this is no 4K monitor, this is still a 10-inch tablet that we're talking about. But in a pinch, on the go, this can actually serve your needs. This is one of the only ways that I've been able to find to get a really decent, full-blown Linux operating system running on a phone. If you directly compare that to the Fold 7, you can see just how much of a difference the screen real estate makes. Now, I don't know why everybody that shows the Fold 7 in action never rotates it in the right orientation to show the larger screen real estate. I'm doing that here, but even with the larger screen real estate, it still just doesn't compare. I don't think that this is anywhere near the amount of space that I would be getting anywhere else. So again, taking a look at an IDE, just how much of a visual difference there is to be able to use the desktop environment the way it was designed. This solves so many of the issues that I have trying to travel light with something like the Fold 7. Now this is true for both of these. In fact, this is true for almost every modern Samsung phone. You can still create a mobile workstation by using Samsung DeX. So you can connect to an external monitor, you can have a larger display, and still use the same application. Again, I don't particularly care for the Android ecosystem when it comes to any kind of development. You don't get full desktop Chrome, you don't get any of the inspection tools, you don't really have what feels like a full-fledged desktop experience. It feels like a larger tablet experience in truth. Shout out to the Linux on DeX developers. When you guys were on top of that, that was amazing, and I wish that that project never died. Maybe that's the new Google desktop or whatever it is that they're building now for the Android phones, but something that gets us to a full-blown desktop experience is really what I'm after. So RDP, VNC, some form of remote desktop viewing is the only way that I've been able to accomplish this goal. The one thing I'll say is on both of these displays with the hole punch camera on the bigger screen on the inside, I just don't who's using these cameras? Why are you guys adamant that we have a hole punch, any camera on the internal display? I think personally that the outside selfie camera, more than enough. If you're gonna try to do anything selfie, call, whatever have you, like this is fine. When you want a larger screen, it's probably because you want an uninterrupted larger screen. Now I will say, media consumption, probably not gonna be too much of an issue, certainly for movie format, because you'll get the top and bottom black bars still even on this display, and it should just cut off that camera. So thankfully, not too much of an issue for media consumption, but for pretty much everything else. Why is there a hole punch camera there? Why am I losing screen space that I paid for? Never been a notch guy, never been a hole punch guy, never been an internal selfie camera guy. What is this for? I'm sure some of you want it. If you're paying this much because you want a large screen though, I just don't understand it. Samsung, if you're listening, please iterate on that camera. Either make it back behind the screen like you did on some of your older foldables, which was fine, or get rid of it altogether. I don't recall ever having used any of these internal screen selfie cameras. I'm sure there's a use case, but it's not for me. I was curious whether I could use this to replace my e-reader as well. Now mind you, I do really appreciate the e-reader being a very easy on the eyes display, very easy to read in sunlight, very easy to just kind of carry around and not think too much about. I do like that it doesn't siphon away the battery from my phone, and I don't have to worry about having this charged even for a simple motorcycle trip. I do like the resolution, I do like the PPI on here. It's very close to what I would expect an actual book to look like. But truth be told, it is still an e-paper display, and refresh rates can leave a bit to be desired. I can work with that, I don't mind it all that much, but I am curious, is the experience much better on this device? I could probably turn the brightness down a bit here. This doesn't feel bad at all to hold like this. Because of all of the benefits of having something that is this responsive, I can enjoy the page animations a little bit better in this device too. The main benefit though, to be completely honest, right here. Don't get me wrong, I do also have color e-paper tablets as well. You're still not going to get all of the benefits that I'm getting here with this color. The color obviously is a little bit more pastel. It doesn't get you anywhere near what an OLED panel would get you, or even an LCD panel with a backlight would get you. Do I think that having color is my main use case? No, not really. It is nice to see the color when it shows up. I think for people that are looking to consume regular comic books, maybe American comics, this is going to be a little bit more your flavor. And I mean, realistically, I'm not getting a ton of color in these pages to begin with, right? I would argue that the e-paper display is going to be better for outdoor reading. This isn't going to give you a really readable experience or usable experience similar to any other phone or iPad or whatever have you. But for that convenience factor of not having to carry around multiple devices, not gonna lie, this may end up being the single device that I go to now. Well, I'm doing everything with one device. How do I make sure that the battery doesn't die? One thing that I would like to check is, how's the wireless charging? It is good to know that it does wirelessly charge with the same setup that I have now. So my true setup for being able to move around on the go. So with these 4 devices, I'm able to go pretty much everywhere, and I can fit the majority of them in my pocket. We're talking early 2000s, real baggy pants style if I really wanted to carry all of this stuff around. But it does work, trust me. I could get this in this pocket. I could technically fit this keyboard in that pocket. So now I have a full workstation on the go with me, and I can, it's not great by any measure, but it is technically able to fit in my pocket. But there is one more thing that I do with my devices that I really was excited to have the TriFold for. Gaming. I love being able to remote into my Steam collection and play games. Not connected to my desktop. This is actually running straight from my computer. Okay, cool. So I know it works on the Fold 7. Now let's see how it works on the TriFold. We'll resume session here, connect your controller. This is an incredible experience. I'm not gonna say that you could use this for competitive gaming by any measure. I know there's gonna be people that have thoughts about streaming games. It is for sure better than the Fold 7. This is my actual gaming computer playing the game right now. This is a 5G connection. This is my wireless connection. I'm not mad about that at all. So in the end, really my use case becomes trying to shrink all of the devices that I have down into a single thing that works best for me. Do I think that this is it? No, I think it helps, and I think it's a step in the right direction. Like I said, I want to see that hole punch camera gone. Here on this display, as you can tell, you can't even tell that the hole punch camera is there, but when you're doing the full desktop experience, when you're trying to consume media maybe that goes into that region, or you're trying to read manga in my case, you can see that hole punch camera there plain as day. I guess I could stop complaining that it's there and maybe find a use case for that camera. Not that kind of guy. I don't think that I'm gonna find a use case for something that I'm paying this much money for. Because you can't realistically do a stylus on this really soft plasticky interior screen, I understand. I wouldn't want to scratch that either. I still need a tablet that I can do digital art on or that I can draw on regularly. Unfortunately, I still can't quite get rid of my tablet. And don't get me wrong, when I'm at home, I'm probably still going to be using my regular laptops for development because it is a little bit inconvenient to have to pull out an external keyboard and have to plug away like this. What would I like to see in it? I think I'd like to see it get to 13 inches in truth. I think if we could find a way to get the foldable to actually get to 13 inches, that puts it pretty much in full-blown laptop replacement territory. If we can get there, maybe with some better battery technology so that it can last a little bit longer, I don't have to worry about one of these guys, that would be it for me. Does this setup replace this setup? I think for me personally, it's 100% going to replace any one of those devices for mobile travel. There's a ton of videos on Samsung Dex and how that works. Not gonna beat that dead horse. But I will say, because most of the places that I'm going to, whether they be friends' houses, hotels, wherever else, they may already have the external displays that I need. That does solve the larger screen issue. Then this becomes the one-size-fits-all multimedia device, manga reader, whatever else I'm using it for, right? Media consumption, of course, is gonna be way better on this. So if you didn't already have a use case in mind, hopefully this helps you understand why somebody would be interested in something like this. Not just for the technical wow factor, but for actual productivity and for a real use case that was thought about before the purchase was made. The phone comes out on Friday. If you do manage to get your hands on it, I'd be curious to see how else anybody else is using this or how else they've been able to streamline their many devices into one workflow. This has been my why for why I bought the Samsung Galaxy TriFold. This has been the Tech Gorilla, just going real on tech.